Welcome. My name is Stephanie Cavoli, and this is the 3 Traditions of Healing. I want to thank you all so much for taking your time to listen to this video. A little bit about myself. I am a licensed massage therapist here in the Capital District. I have a practice in Albany and a practice in Schenectady. I am best known for incorporating or working with very gentle massage, or what I call restorative massage. And oftentimes this includes a lot of herbal oils into my sessions. I have been studying plant spirit medicine for the past year. I got my first certification in December, and starting next weekend, I'll be doing a second 9-month apprenticeship to gain my year 2 certification, and really look forward to bringing all of that great healing work and the herbal work into my massage practice even deeper. This practice really goes hand in hand with a lot of the wise woman tradition principles, and we're going to be learning a lot about that in just a few minutes. I'm really, really excited to share this with all of you. Learning about the 3 traditions of healing and studying it has actually really changed my life. It's become a philosophy that has helped me not only in my personal life dealing with conflict resolution and my personal relationships with my family and friends, my political views, all of that. It also really helps me in my massage room. I really apply the principles of one of these particular traditions a little bit more so than others because it aligns most with my beliefs, and that's the wise woman way. But I bring those into my massage room and into my business because it really is a philosophy that I believe in, and I think when I line up with that, I feel better in all aspects of my life. So today, learning about the 3 traditions of healing, you're going to get a look at 3 different perspectives. And what's fun about the 3 traditions of healing is that all of these traditions, we are part of each one of them. We can't separate them completely. Part of our beliefs, our values, how we do things are going to take from each of these traditions. And we don't consciously think about these. So many of you have never heard of the 3 traditions of healing before. And so it's not a conscious act for most people when they're going about their daily business. They're not thinking, oh, I'm going to do this in the heroic fashion, or I'm going to do this in the scientific fashion. But that's really what this workshop is about. The goal today is to really give you a view of a different way of thinking and to determine, well, how do I feel about this, and where am I on the scale, and what changes or shifts might I want to make in my life based on these viewpoints that might make it better. You may find that you really resonate with one of these traditions strongly, and that's great. Or you may find that you're a mix of 2 or a mix of all 3. And from my perspective, there's no right way. There's no specific path that you're supposed to be on. So there's no judgment. There's no, you should be doing this or you should be doing that. There are definitely some pros and cons to all of them. And so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to jump right in with the scientific tradition, and I really hope you guys enjoy this workshop. Okay, so the scientific tradition's motto is trust the machine. And you can see here that I have a quote from Susun Weed. She is somebody who many, many women look up to. I adore her. I think that her teachings are pretty revolutionary and very inspiring. She coined some of this information that we're learning today. She talks a lot about it in her book, Healing Wise. I really recommend it. It's a great book. It's got a lot of this information in it, as well as a lot about herbs. And so let's take a look at the scientific tradition. And when we say trust the machine, it's all about viewing our bodies as a machine. So Susun Weed says, bodies are understood to be like machines in the scientific tradition. When machines run well, stay healthy, they don't deviate. anything that deviates from normal needs to be fixed or repaired. The scientific tradition is excellent for fixing broken things. Measurements must be taken to determine deviation and ensure normalcy. So, the scientific tradition or the scientific way of thinking is symbolized by the line. The line highlights the concept of linear thought. So if we think about something that can repeat time after time, a line is constant. It does have a beginning and an end that can be repeated. On one side of that spectrum is health, and on the other side is sickness. And the scientific tradition tends to believe that health and sickness are always in a battle against each other. We view the scientific tradition as our Western medicine, the way that we traditionally have grown up being taught about health, wellness, medicine, and how that affects our bodies. And in the scientific tradition, our bodies are viewed very much as machines. We're mechanical. We all work the same. Our body parts function the same in everyone. So we're not looked at as individuals. We're not looked at as a body, mind, spirit connection. We're really looked at piece by piece. Each of our parts become part of a whole. So for instance, when we think about going to the doctors, you may have your primary care physician. You may also have a heart specialist. You also have a foot specialist. You also have, somebody who will look at your digestion and your stomach issues. So our bodies are really separated into mechanical parts. We also look at medicine as something very different from our food. We tend to take medicine less as a preventative measure and more as a cure. These medicines are given by doctors, authority figures who are the know-all, be-all of what we should be doing with our body. We tend to see them as the authority. And medicines tend to come in very concentrated doses. So we take pills, sometimes cough syrups, but it's meant for a quick fix, and it is meant to be given in very concentrated doses. We use diagnostic tools and tests, and we trust those tests more than people. So you see in this picture below, we have a doctor that's taking a peek at technology, and technology is amazing, right? All of the things that we've learned and the tests that we can trust. But the one thing that we need to know about the scientific method is it puts very little value on what that individual person says and all the value on a machine. So it's saying that we can't trust ourselves, we can't trust our doctors, we can only trust this machine or this test because that's going to tell us everything that we need to know. And there's value in repeat occurrences. So I mentioned before that everybody's body functions the same, and we define sickness in the scientific method as not working, not having the repeat moments like we're supposed to. So if something is different, if something varies, that's when we're going to be sick. And that's when we need a doctor to come and quote unquote fix us. So in the scientific tradition, we are usually perceived as broken, and the doctor, it's his job or her job to come in, make the changes to our parts, just like you might take your car to auto mechanic. He's not going to look at the car as a whole, he's going to look at your transmission and fix that. So that's a basic overview of the scientific tradition, and our next slide is going to tell us about some things that we can consider. Alright, so this slide is going to talk about some things you should consider. And the reason why I added this slide, I think this is one of the more important parts of this workshop today, is the ability to kind of take a look at yourself, take a look at your values and your beliefs, think about these 3 traditions that I'm telling you about, and find out where are you on that scale? Which one do your beliefs and your values really line up with? Where should you make some changes? Where might a shift in your perspective, where will that make a difference in your life? For me, we'll see at the end of the slides, the Wise Woman Way really changed everything, and this perspective really made a difference. The really great thing, by the way, I'll get onto the slide, but the really great thing about this is that we're all going to fall within all three of these traditions. So no matter how much we want to be one in particular, we're going to kind of gracefully flow through each of them at different times, and that's okay too. So when we're talking about the scientific tradition, which we've been talking about, the first thing that we want to consider is, do I trust my doctor fully? Can I really, really invest all of my faith and trust in my healthcare practitioner or practitioners, the men and women who I go and see, get my checkups, they look at my test results? Do I really, really trust them? And if you're not trusting them, should you be trusting another one? Is there somebody else who might be a better fit for you? And if you trust your doctor, that's perfect. The next thing to consider is, am I comfortable letting my doctor know about my skepticism or concerns about their decisions and potential treatment plans? So we've all sat down and we've all listened to somebody say to me, or say to you, hey, this is the treatment plan I think you should do, this is the medication you should be on, and there's always been at least one time where you think, I don't know about that. That's not right for me. So my question here is, can you tell your doctor that? Are you comfortable pointing out to him that you have some serious questions or some serious doubts? And are you comfortable making sure that that's well received? So that's just one more thing to consider. The next is, would I be okay with seeking a second or third opinion? So this sort of goes back to the first two things. If you're uncomfortable talking to your doctor or you don't trust them, is it time to seek a second opinion? If you do trust your doctor, do you still feel comfortable with seeking a second or third opinion when you have something serious going on? Is it possible that the tools from a different doctor's tool belt might be worthy for me? And am I okay with that? Is that something that I'm comfortable doing? And the last is, have I evaluated the medicines that I have been prescribed? Have I talked with my pharmacist about the pros and cons of the treatments I'm under? Have I really taken the time to delve into my health and look at my treatments and go, is this really what I should be taking? Is this really good for me? And what some people don't know, or what some people don't take advantage of, is your pharmacist. So the really great thing about your pharmacist, despite how many doctors you have, is that you can get that consultation with your pharmacist, usually for free. They can look at all of your prescriptions, especially if you get some from online instead of going to the pharmacy directly. And he can literally sit down with you and talk to you about the pros and cons of each one, or the combination of the prescriptions that you're on. And you can find out if he's got maybe some recommendations that you might want to talk to your doctor about. So are you comfortable doing that? Have you done that? How do you really feel about your doctor? Is it time to make some changes, or are you happy with where you are? Okay, so the next tradition is the heroic tradition. And the motto from the heroic tradition is, trust me, not yourself. Trust me. I am the healer. I am the savior. I know what I'm talking about, and you have not studied this, so you can't possibly know. And Susan Weed, this is what she has to say about the heroic tradition. So healing in the heroic tradition focuses on cleansing. According to this tradition, diseases arise when toxins, dirt, filth, anger, negativity, pessimism accumulate. When we are bad, when we eat the wrong food, think the wrong thought, commit a sin, we sicken, and the healer is the savior offering purification, punishment, and redemption. So that sounds a little negative, right? The good thing about the heroic tradition is that it's often the most associated with alternative healing and holistic healing. So there are some really good things about the heroic tradition as well. Okay, so let's talk just a little bit about the heroic tradition. And for this one, I'm going to pull all of these up because I think that if we go over all of them sort of together, it might make a little bit more sense. So one of the things that we're going to find about the heroic tradition is that it's often very synonymous with our holistic medicine or our alternative medicine. It kind of flows with that movement. The heroic tradition is symbolized by a circle, which represents the order which we must all follow, so the cycle of things. The good versus evil, punishment versus purification, body, mind, spirit connection, always looking to achieve highest purity of our bodies, which can hinder us. Personal responsibility for our health, it's our fault, whether we feel good or bad. We must trust the healer when we need to be healed, and religion or spiritual beliefs are often what colors the course of healing. So what I find most intriguing about the heroic tradition is that oftentimes when you talk to somebody who is following a more new age path or a more holistic alternative path, they tend to want to separate themselves from the Western medicine way of life, right? But what's really interesting is we actually, in this tradition, borrow a lot, not only from some of the scientific ideas when it comes to authority figures, but we also sort of there's also sort of a play of this religion and spirituality coming in, and our Puritan roots here in this country. So what you'll find with the heroic tradition very often is that there is a savior, a healer, somebody in particular who needs to do the healing for you. You cannot heal yourself. You need to be healed by someone else. And oftentimes there's this tenet of good versus evil, punishment versus purification. So your actions, what you put in your body, what you do, how you think, how you feel is often a direct result of how your body works. But in the heroic tradition, there's a really, really strong point about this, that if you do good things will happen. But if you, for instance, are thinking too negatively, negative things will happen. We see this a little bit with The Secret or the law of attraction. What we put out there is what we bring to us, right? And when we think about those old Puritan beliefs, we think about how we need to go to confession. We have to confess our sins. We need to cleanse or purge our emotions and our spiritual souls of all of this negativity, right? So it's very, very similar. There's no one to confess to. It's all about self-responsibility, but at the same time, we're in that same world of good versus evil, punishment versus purification. So oftentimes the healer's job will be to help cleanse you emotionally, physically, spiritually. You see this a lot with detoxes, oils or diets that will help detox your system, make you clean, and when you're clean, you can be healthy. So those two things for me are very interesting. We also sort of talk about how a doctor in the scientific tradition is the authority. They know what they're talking about. They know what to do. And in this tradition, we still have that authority. The difference is it's the healer. So, maybe in order for that herb to make you feel better, we have to get the herb from this one particular source. And not only do we need to get the herb from that one particular source, we need to, circle around it 3 times, chant the magic words, smudge it with sage, and then, prepare it in this certain way. And then, and only then, will this magical, perfect herb work for you. So that's sort of how the heroic tradition kind of looks at our health and healing. There's a lot of cleansing, a lot of purification, and there's a huge, huge amount of faith put in the fact that, you have to be responsible. You have to pay attention to what you're feeding your body, both emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So some things to consider for the heroic tradition. Do the tactics and methods suggested to me align with my beliefs and values? What I'm learning or what I'm getting suggested to learn or to do for myself to stay healthy, how do they match up with what I really believe? Is it a stretch for me to try these things? Do I need to take a leap of faith to try these things? Or do they really make sense to me? Do they align with my core values? What training is involved with the modality in which my practitioner offers? So this can sort of be a double-edged sword. The extreme case of the heroic tradition is going to be somebody who has so much training and you clearly do not have nearly enough. I'm the only one who can help you. I have done this. I have this certification, and you don't. So you are inferior and I'm the healer. On the other side, there's the opposite, a practitioner who has very little training, or maybe they understand their modality, but they didn't really do any training in the human anatomy. They don't really know what it is that, they're really working on with these core problems or the roots of problems. So just paying attention, what training is involved, what did they do, and how do you feel about that? If you're comfortable with the amount of training that they've had either way, then that's really all that matters. Is there anything about this treatment that makes me uncomfortable, and am I prepared to speak up if it does? So we mentioned that as much as the heroic and the scientific traditions are separate or different, this is another one of those things to take into consideration that's very similar to what we would consider with the scientific. So is the healer or is the treatment suggested to me? How does it make me feel? Am I allowed to speak up and say, hey, wait a minute? Oftentimes I find that in the heroic tradition, people are so passionate, so compassionate, so compelling that they right away kind of jump up and down and say, this is what you need, this is what we can do, I have this cleanse, I have this oil, I have this, diet, I have this thing that will make you better. And we don't really have the opportunity to say, hey, wait, I'm not comfortable with this, or I'm not ready for this, because that person is so excited and we sort of want to jump on that bandwagon with them. So similar to the scientific, am I comfortable speaking up if something does make me uncomfortable? Did I seek my practitioner out, or did my practitioner seek me out? So in the heroic tradition, we talk a lot about the healer being the one to heal you. And so this is pretty self-explanatory. How did you come across your practitioner? Were they referred to you? What kind of reviews do they have? Did your practitioner find you? And if they did, was it a hard sell or a soft sell? How do you feel about that? And what does being cleansed mean to me? So we hear that a lot, we see that a lot, and really what this is asking you to consider is what does being cleansed mean? How do I view it? How do I feel about it? And then when somebody brings that topic up, you're ready. You can talk about it in an intelligent way, how your body feels, if you've done a cleanse before, evaluating what changes it made for your body positively or negatively. And it just gives you a little bit of a leg up when you're involved in these types of conversations. Okay. So the next tradition of healing is the Wise Woman Way. Her motto here is trust yourself. The Wise Woman Way is the tradition that I strive most to be like, but that doesn't always happen. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best way. It's just the way that aligns with my personal beliefs a little bit better and helps me to understand the world around me with a different color lens. The interesting thing about doing this workshop is that I thought the easiest tradition to talk about would be the Wise Woman tradition. I try to live my life by its values, and so, I do this every day. I can talk about this. When I was writing it, I had a lot of trouble because I'm so passionate. Which part do I talk about? What do I point out? What is important? And at the end of the day, I pulled some things and realized that part of believing in the Wise Woman Way is letting you decide that for yourself and knowing what's best for you. So that's sort of the theme. And again, we mentioned that the motto is trust yourself. The idea here is that you know more about your body than anyone or anything. Susan Weed, who is the face of the Wise Woman Way, says this: "The Wise Woman tradition sees each life as a spiraling, ever-changing completeness. Disease and injury are seen as doorways of transformation, and each person is recognized as a self-healer, earth healer, inherently whole, resonant to the whole, and vital to the whole. Substance, thought, feeling, and spirit are inseparable in the Wise Woman tradition." Now I want you to just think about that for a second. How did that paragraph sound versus the other paragraphs we just read? All right. So the Wise Woman Way is represented by the spiral, which is a never-ending process of transformation. We consider all healing to be self-healing. Like mentioned before in the other two, we don't view there to be an authority or a savior, while a doctor or a healer could have really good input, while they might have really great resources and really great medicines and really great suggestions. They are not the be-all, end-all. In the end, we know our bodies better than anybody, and all healing ultimately happens within our body, right? So no matter what we put in it or what we do with it, it's our body that does the work, and the Wise Woman Way really celebrates this. The Wise Woman Way does not believe that there is a right way, and that sort of kind of speaks to what I was just talking about. We believe that there's many different paths, there's many different ways for things to happen, and so there's no right way. We celebrate difference. So in the beginning, when we were talking about the scientific method, right, we talked about how variation is bad. We need to fix that. Something's wrong. Well, here in the Wise Woman Way, we understand that what may not work for one person may work just fine for another. So it doesn't necessarily need to be fixed or changed. We sort of celebrate that. We also view nourishment to be the most important thing. So you'll notice that if you start to study Susan Weed et al. And look at the way she talks about her herbs or her herbal medicine, it is not about a quick fix. It's not about a cure. It's about nourishing your body. So for instance, if you have something going on with your heart, the Wise Woman's Way wouldn't say, well, let's give it medicine to fix it. The Wise Woman Way would say, okay, let's find some medicines that's going to nourish the heart. Let's make it stronger. Let's make it work to its best potential. The idea here is that when something is well nourished and working at its best potential, your body is better in balance and less likely to get sick. We also believe that you are whole. So we talk about you, in the scientific tradition, your body being a sum of its parts. In the heroic tradition, we talk about the mind-body connection, and one thing I hadn't really pointed out very clearly is that in the heroic tradition, we often assume that the highest vibrational level we can get to is the best, and our bodies are somehow unclean. And the more we can strive to the ethereal realm, the more we can bring our vibration and our higher conscious up, the better we will be, because our bodies can weigh us down. In the Wise Woman tradition, we don't really prescribe to that. The idea is that you are whole, body, mind, spirit. You are part of one whole revolving spiral. We are all connected to each other, and we are all connected to the universe. So what's good for you is good for me. And the idea is that we're not separated between our spirit, our emotions, or our body. It's all one. Medicine and healing can be accessed by everyone, so that sort of goes back to all healing is self-healing. There's no authority. The wise woman way tends to look for medicines that can be easy for anyone to access. They don't work in high concentrations, so medicine is safe. We also view food as our medicine, and so preventative measures are our number one priority. We eat food that nourishes us. We take quote unquote medicine that nourishes us, and anybody can access it. So it's not really wise woman medicine if you can only get the medicine from a plant. If you trek 5 miles into the woods to find it, dance in a circle around it, and chant sacred words. It's not only medicine if your doctor can prescribe it and you can't get it any other way. So the wise woman tradition really, really speaks to being about the wholeness of your body, the nourishment of your body, and the ability to trust yourself and take care of it yourself. So some things we're going to consider with the wise woman way is, what nourishes me? What nourishes me physically? What nourishes me emotionally, spiritually? What do I do? What does nourishment mean to me, and what nourishes me? Do I trust myself and my intuition when it comes to my body? So in my other things to consider, I talk a lot about, can I ask questions? Can I speak up when something doesn't feel right? And the wise woman way is really about listening to that, really tapping in and thinking for yourself and feeling for yourself and knowing when something is appropriate or when something is not appropriate. What am I eating, and is it nourishing me emotionally, physically, or not at all? I think this one speaks for itself. And when I look in the mirror, am I judging myself? So I'm a perfect example of this. I work in the wellness industry. I am a massage therapist. I am into herbalism, the wise woman way, and I want to be as nourished as possible. But if I look in the mirror, there are some people in the heroic tradition who would look at me and say, but Stephanie, you're overweight. You're short, you're 5 foot, and you're a little pudgy. When I look into the mirror under the heroic way, I might think to myself, wow, I'm not eating right. I'm not taking care of myself. I'm going to get sick. This is bad. The wise woman way says, don't judge yourself when you look in the mirror. Find balance. Nourish yourself. Do you feel comfortable and nourished in your body? Then there should be no judgment. And the last thing to consider is, what is my definition of medicine? What do you think of when you think of healthy bodies, healthy soul, healthy emotions, healthy spirituality? And when you need to give it medicine, what is it you want to give it? What is it that's best for your body? What is your definition of medicine? So this wraps up our workshop on the 3 traditions of healing. I really, really want to thank you for spending your time listening to me go on for the past half hour or so. I really, really love looking at things from a different perspective, and I really hope that for you, looking at the 3 traditions of healing opened your eyes a little bit, gave you a new perspective, a new way to look at your body, a new way to look at your health and healing, and above all, even if you're happy with the way you do things and you're not going to change anything, above all, I really hope that this workshop helped you find comfort in that, and a strong sense of, this is who I am and this is what I believe. That's really my goal for today. So I would love to talk to you all a little bit more about looking at things through the wise woman colored lens, the way that I typically try to view things. And so in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be working on formatting my that second portion of the workshop into a video here just like today, so that you can listen at home and try to learn a different way to view the world through the Wise Woman glasses or the Wise Woman lens. So if you have any questions, any comments, please feel free to email me. You can do that at info@sanctuarymassages.com. That's info@sanctuarymassages.com. Or if you're part of the Facebook group, please, or event group, please don't be afraid to leave some comments with questions, and I'm more than happy to answer as many of those as possible. So again, I really want to thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope this opened your eyes, and have a wonderful day. Green blessings, everybody.